and what are they offering? And, by Dudu's administration, how is he ready to transform the whole, institution?
GNOC.
Yeah, so he would be here and we will engage him. Then the NACOF team would be here. They're also preparing for the biggest youth convergence in the Gambia. And many people will be in attendance and from outside the Gambia as well. So Wura and the team, they would also be here, to update us on the preparation. Yeah, so Mr. Adedrame, let's take a look at the African code. You were trying to pinpoint something from the code.
But yes, it's not an African one for a start.
Thought, yeah.
But it says, accept no one's definition of your life, define yourself. Now, it's attributed to Harvey Fierstein, and it says fearlessmotivation.com. But this could have been written by me.
Absolutely.
I've kind of lived my life like that, really. I don't allow others to define me. I'm pretty kind of bloody-minded about that. I define myself, and
exactly.
that's what matters.
Yeah,
not what others think.
Whatever makes you comfortable.
Trust me.
When you are comfortable, the way you are, make sure the way you are also is for the positive. Not the negative.
Positive, negative, whatever.
Point.
You are the only one who is in your skin. Nobody else is in your skin, so they don't know what you're going through, what you're doing, whatever. So don't let them define you. Define yourself. As the quote says, define yourself.
Define yourself, Mr. Mboj. Yeah. How do you define yourself?
That's the difficult bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
When I read it, it sounded very American, and this chap, very American, isn't it?
Yes.
This motivational
kind of
sort of individual.
When Mr. Mboj is finished, I'll tell you how you define
how you
yourself.
define yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, and then I thought, oh, what is a self?
Well,
You see, it takes you back.
It's really wide, and that's why I was saying that. Because if I jump in here. When you take any of us here, we're not just one thing. You described Mr. Mboj as an intellectual. At work, he's Mr. Mboj. He's in charge of a particular section of the news, African News Roundup. Outside of here, he's a father to 2 boys. And so he's not just one thing. I'm editor-in-chief. I'm a sibling to some people. I'm a nephew to others, and I'm this and that. In all of those, you're not just one thing. So define yourself within the parameters of, who you are and your interactions with people.
True.
And then, let you be the one who decides, okay, how am I going to interact with my siblings, with my cousins, with my uncles, my aunties, my workmates? I'm a manager. I'm a this, I'm a that. So you're not just one thing. And so when people try and kind of pigeonhole themselves and say, oh, I'm this, I'm always a bit suspicious, because nobody is ever just one thing.
True.
You are many things in different situations.
Absolutely. So, those many things too defines you as an individual. You use those things and define yourself based on those things. You understand? Some people might be going through a lot, and they might find themselves in a situation. People might start pointing fingers at that individual, but without knowing deep why the individual is in this type of a situation.
Yeah, we had a discussion in the office before this, and I hadn't seen the quote, didn't know what this was going about, and it was about parenthood and our own parents. And I mentioned the fact that at my mother's funeral, I gave the eulogy. And one of the things I said was that because of the example that my parents set for us, about honesty, etc., we needed no other role models outside of our parents. And I meant that very, very sincerely. People would say, oh, Mandela or this or Martin Luther King. It's fine. You admire those people. But in terms of role models, my father was very strict, but not in a kind of vicious way. And one of the things he always said to us, if I ask you something, don't lie to me. He said, because I will take whatever answer you give me on trust and on faith, because that is what I've taught you to be. And so we would even get ourselves into trouble by admitting something to our parents, because we didn't want to disappoint them, we didn't want to lie to them. And that was what we've now, as parents ourselves, we've tried to impart to our children. And so you try and let that guide you. you know.
Absolutely, but there you see, I'm a bit of a skeptic with this eye, as it were.
Yeah.
When I take an individual, and from the parents, the family you're born into, and then your surroundings, your formative years. You are not in control of any of that. But all of these things go to define who you are. Actually, the subsoil, as it were, of my character. And then, you see, am I defining, which seems like a positive attribute, a positive action, there's something I'm doing, I'm defining. Or am I discovering? I am in a situation and I act in a certain way. Sometimes I surprise myself. God, how come? So this is it. What is a self? Then perhaps from there, I can see where my own thoughts can come to bear on the self, because there are so many other factors outside of myself that bear on my character and the way I am.
Absolutely.
So it's a very dangerous terrain.
It is.
It's not simply, oh, this is my opinion. We are fond of saying that. But when you say that, you're taking a huge risk, because that will bump against reality and you'll be disappointed.
Because even as I was saying about our parents there are times when inevitably you have to disappoint your parents.
At some point.
Because they want you to be something. Because they want you to be a lawyer or a doctor, and you say, no, I want to be a journalist. And they're like, no. But then I say, no, I'm the one who has to live my life. And that's where you start to take control of things, as Mr. Boy said, certain things have fed into who you are and what you are. But, it's not just, you haven't just come upon it independently, Certain things have happened, and some things, they don't even tell you. You just see things, you observe things.
True.
Or you have an uncle or an aunt who they tell you, always do this, and then you see them doing something that's the opposite of that. And then you lose respect for them, So at some point, you get to the point where, I'm growing up, I'm an adult, I'm taking on my own decisions. Like I said, even my parents, for all the fact that I admired them and so on, I didn't really let them define me, because I tried to be who and what I wanted to be, and sometimes I clashed with them, because they're like, no.
You can come from a family of lawyers and you want to be a doctor. There are families that are known to be, okay, this is a family of lawyers. And, surprisingly, there is a community around Makati, CRR area. It's called Boraba. And that community is known to produce, Gambia's biggest lawyers.
I have, my father was a lawyer. My mother's two sisters, I beg your pardon, my aunties, they were both married to lawyers. I have 3 cousins who are lawyers. So
wow.
It was kind of expected that
You will also follow the trend.
The trend, and as Mbojo and I have said, after 2 years of law school, for different reasons, I just found it too hard.
At some point, that's where responsibilities come into place. You start growing, taking up challenges, taking up responsibilities, and also thinking from a different angle comes at a time and at a point in your life when you start growing to an extent. You understand?
What do we mean by when we start growing? It's simply about finding ourselves having sort of diverse experiences. Out of that, you tweak here and there your beliefs and your attitude, even that. Then your action. So it's out of diverse experiences. I think I can pick and choose what I think is really right for me. When experience is limited, then what can I make out of that? What can I create out of that?
And one of the reasons why I like the quote is because we live in an age now, because of social media, where people are quick to make judgments of people. You might be joining a conversation in a social media forum, and somebody, because they don't like that, they make all sorts of assumptions about you that have no definition. So don't let them define you. You know who you are, and you know why. You might have made the comment just to be devil's advocate, just to kind of stimulate the conversation or whatever. But they don't know that, because they don't know you. They don't know the type of person you are, and they start hurling insults at you. And there are many groups I've had to leave, not because they were insulting me, because people were insulting each other based on just one sentence or one comment that somebody made. Oh, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that. Started using, vile language. And I think, I don't need to be in this. I joined this because I thought we were going to have intelligent conversations,
yes.
not insulting.
So that's it. So I hope quotes like this would sort of lead us back to us asking the question, what is a self?
What is the self?
It is really so fundamental what the self is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then, as they say, self-awareness is really the beginning, the first step to really to gaining knowledge. Really, it must start from there. So it is important to ask, what is the self?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So at this point, we'll head to the newspaper review. We've almost exhausted the time for the code, not an African code. It's a general code. Everybody uses
code.
Yes. Gambia Teachers Union calls off strike after government disburses pay. We will be talking to SSO, the General Secretary of the Gambia Teachers Union, on this.
And they've issued a press release, says that they've secured the payment. And they did say that it was being processed. And I think, we asked the question yesterday, if it's being processed, why not wait for it to be processed? Why are you threatening to go on strike? And now, one day later, and this was just yesterday, we had them on the program saying, can't you be patient? Can't you just wait? And I think it was Malik sitting where you are who asked the question. If it's in the pipeline, why not wait and see? Why where is the mistrust or the distrust or whatever? But one day later, they've issued another press release, so we'll find out.
Yeah. But how many times in the past 3 or 4 years we've been covering these stories? How many times
they're for different things. They have this thing called
similar situation.
That's right. Is the school improvement grant is the one that was in dispute this time. So it wasn't necessarily about pay as such. So in fact, they had to explain all of that to us and to the viewers.
Yeah, there are certain incentives. That should be given and paid. So obviously, if they are delayed, it affects some of their activities. So I think most of the time, in fact, he made it very clear, it's not about pay. It's not the pay, but there are certain incentives that are agreed upon that should be paid too.
And so we must also ask our teachers when they come on whether they write in American English. This is former British colony. I see they've used American spellings all the way through their press release. Well, hey,
badly nice. Because we blame the computers
and these
now,
are
don't
teachers.
we?
Yeah,
because the computers have all used
these are
American
our teachers.
English.
God help us.
Yeah, so might be it's the computer correction.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's what we're saying, because a lot of they're set to U.S. English. You have to be, wise enough to set it to UK English, but many people don't bother.
Exactly. Yesterday there was a state funeral. Surprisingly, I didn't know it. I didn't realize it until late. I was just surfing through my mobile phone and I saw former speaker.
His body was laid.
Abdullah Bojang.
Abdullah Bojang.
Former speaker of the National Assembly. Around year 2005, 2003, 2005. Those are the time. So I didn't realize it until when I saw it. I was like, is it an old story or what? But when I saw some of the National Assembly members, I said, wow, this is definitely
the current National Assembly members.
So he was laid in state.
Laid in state at the National Assembly, and our colleague Ali, and we can see the pictures there. Our colleague Ali Sise covered this story, I believe. And people came and gave eulogies about his character and so on. Yeah, but you said you were not aware.
I wasn't aware. In fact, to be very honest, this is my first time of coming across someone called Aliu Bojang, Abdullah Bojang, rather, as a speaker of the National Assembly. Maybe by then,
you were very young.
Around 2023, by then.
No,
2003. 2003, I was going to school.
21 years ago.
Yes,
so
and
you were still
I wasn't very often with state. A lot of activities.
You were in short trousers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. Someone said it's 2010.
I knew then. When he was speaker, I knew. I wasn't living in the country though. But I knew that he was speaker.
Yeah. 2010 to 2017.
Okay.
Okay.
So-
2010.
Yeah.
So on the
Yeah,
cusp
it's
of
a- it's
so,
a- it's
so,
a recent
so
one.
around recent time that you should have been
Exactly.
aware.
You know, at some point, I mean, during those days, I mean, there are times that people like me, we were not very interested with National Assembly sittings because if you can
It
remember
was all rubber stamp.
the then
Yeah,
government,
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, at some point, anybody they appoint as National Assembly member or speaker, you are not very interested because you know it's just the theoretical thing. So at some point, we are not interested.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Yes, or was it that they were not sufficiently politicized? Because if you think that something is going wrong, then you can say that we as youth, perhaps, you know, we can
I think,
form this
yeah.
advocacy group. I don't know. You
Yeah,
can call it not being interested.
Mm.
I might call it being insufficiently politicized.
But
as
I think
young
also
people.
what has transformed it is that the proceedings are now broadcast. So you can go live, you can watch them on Facebook and so on. In those days, they weren't.
Absolutely.
You know, so-
but again,
so
it didn't
people
stop us
really
from
just-
going to the courts, for
Yeah,
instance,
yeah.
when we were at high school
Right, right.
to watch. It
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
stop us from being interested
Mm,
in state activities.
Mm.
So we were more interested, and there was no TV, there was nothing like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Maybe that helped. We didn't have the phones.
Well, this
we
is
were
a-
not sort of colonized, as it were, by the phones,
Yeah,
as the kids today
Yeah.
appear to be.
And during former president days, we used to have a group of students called the National Patriotic Students Association, NAPSA.
Okay.
You know, it's a group of students.
Did you join?
Yes, I was part of the group.
Oh.
I was part of the group, Sidinjai,
So
Deputy Speaker.
what
In
did
fact, the Deputy Speaker was then our president of NAPSA. In fact, that's where he was pinpointed by the former president and appointed him as the nominated National Assembly member. You know, so we were all in the same group. And now I'm sitting and thinking to myself, I mean, what is that group of students doing? Wherever the president moves, they go with the president. Whatever the president does, NAPSA is there.
That was to show their patriotism, was it? so you used to move.
I was there moving. We moved to Canela a lot of times. I mean, so
the
now I
next-
wonder.
The next commission
Absolutely.
of inquiry will be
No.
Can you imagine having that? The National Association of
Patriotic
Patriotic
Students.
Students. You wouldn't
Lovely.
have thought of that. You know what I'm saying?
That's
talk
a
about,
crazy
talk
thing.
about sucking up to authority. I mean, gosh. students
So
Yeah,
it will
should
be
have been doing the
important.
opposite.
Really,
It will-
it's pointless sort of making these big
Yeah.
gestures.
Yeah.
I'm a patriot, or I'm this, or I'm
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Just,
So
just
what-
have good manners.
Yeah,
and
quite.
you'll
So
be
what
fine.
else? What else is in the news?
It will be important if we can get hold of Mr. Sow, I mean, from the GTU.
I'm sure they're trying.
I mean, to engage us on
Well, in the
this
meantime,
here. So
you have
for
newspapers?
now, we are listening to our director, Ali Ujalo,
Okay.
to connect us to the GTU.
Any other
Um,
stories?
but do you have
Yes.
some stories in the newspapers?
Okay,
Meantime?
Fall to run for PPP leadership. I mean, not Esa Fall,
Which,
but I just mentioned Fall. Well,
they haven't told us which.
they
file.
haven't said
That's
which
very
Fall,
clever.
but at
So
least
They want to draw people in.
PPP,
PPP
leadership.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so there's a vacancy now, I take
Right,
it.
right,
Or they go
File.
to
Oh,
primaries.
there's a photograph of somebody there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I mean,
You don't recognize.
I don't recognize him.
Okay.
Well, let's take a look at it. I'm not here to comment on PPP leadership or any other thing. The last time I
But why-
comment,
but
my
why
brother.
not?
The last time I made a comment, my brother in the U.S. I mean, I think he's the he is the grandchild of former president Sadauda Jawara, Ibrahima Jawara, my
I think-
Tom.
I
He
think
said
you-
to me, Tom, PPP is not
It's
dead.
not dead.
PPP is not dead. We are still coming. I was like,
And
okay.
so now we can
Yeah,
see
that's Fall there.
Fall is to run for the leadership of the party. And
Yeah.
So
You must know this Fall, Mr. Mboj.
Mr. Mboj might, but I don't recognize the picture straight away.
Yeah, so let's move.
Yeah. Sure.
I think PPP, they need a strong leadership. They need someone who will implement, the party. I mean, what the party stands for. I mean, they need people who will make change. I mean, we've seen over the past years how the party, people don't hear much about the PPP
But what
anymore.
do all the parties stand for? I mean, we've recently had DOI coming out and trying to kind of define or redefine themselves for the public so that the public are aware. these are the things we've always stood for. But I don't get the kind of distinct difference between the parties here in the Gambia that you would say between the Democrats and the Republicans in the United States, or between Labour and the Conservative in Britain. I don't see those kind of stark divisions in terms of ideology between the parties, and I think
absolutely, it did not exist at all.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, with these parties, as it were, that gained independence, really the influence over the years, the graph, it's been going down, the trajectory has been waning. We've seen it now in South Africa now and all over the place. So I think PPP served its historical moment. I cannot see it coming back. What the younger generation, what they can do is that perhaps try to extract, if one can put it that way, what was really the spirit of this PPP? What was really the spirit of it? To my mind, good governance. I think that was at the very heart of it, from the president down, which isn't to say that there weren't things being done that shouldn't have been done. You know, one is not talking within a context of a perfect person here, but just a human being trying to run post-independent small nation, a small country. So good governance, trying to bring in meritocracy, the little that you have, how best can you maximize it? These were really the simple, homegrown ideas.
And this is something that's been very much crystallized in my mind, because something I had shared with Mr. Mboj is that I'm doing a project at the moment where I'm looking at all the countries in Africa that became independent between 1951 and 1968. So Libya in 1951.
Okay.
In fact, there were 38 countries up to 1968. I had wanted to take it up to 1969, but there was no country that gained its independence in 1969. So I've been looking at, what is it they stood for. So for many of them, there was something they could look at and point to and say, this is what we're against, which is the colonial powers. So be it Britain, France, the Portuguese, the ones who were fighting against them could point to certain things and saying, this is what. But once that has gone, what then? How do you take it forward? So for many of them, even in Cabo Verde, how many times has African Party for the Independence of Cabo Verde and Guinea-Bissau, they used to think that it was theirs by right, that they would always be elected. But in Cabo Verde, they've been in and out of government, and in fact, they lost the last 2 elections. So those independence movements, for many people, they served a purpose, but it doesn't mean that we owe it to you. And the ANC have found out the hard way. The 2 breakaways from the ANC, the one led by Malema and the one led by Jacob Zuma, if you brought those people back into the ANC fold, they would have won the last election. And yet those people, sucked away a lot of their support. And they ended up losing and now having to go into a coalition. So you have that.
Exactly. I mean, it will also be a very interesting time to witness. I mean, Gambia's election in 2026, I mean, a lot of things will happen. A lot of presidential aspirants will come out, I mean, to show their interest. But where is the GDC? The man who caused the biggest damage, I mean, during Jammeh's time, because most of Jammeh's votes were taken by the GDC. Some people don't want to vote for the coalition, but they voted for the GDC. So I can remember there was a BBC interview when they interviewed, I think, one of the, opposition leaders, and they were like, is Mama Kande the man who sent Jammeh out of this country at some point, because he took almost 100,000 of his votes.
Let's put it this way, yeah. I think context should explain here really what really happened with Mama Kande. that made him seem, his rise seemed so meteoric,
like a kind of
but like a
king
spark.
maker almost.
Yeah, it's just a spark in there. 2016, Gambia was ready for change.
Yeah.
So when he came, remember he came quite late, but he came with such momentum.
Power.
It was unbelievable. People were just fed up.
True.
So he served a role in the elections. Whatever he
yeah.
did, absolutely crucial, perhaps to the win, the coalition win.
Yeah,
Granted, yeah. But once Barrow established himself, look at what happened. First in the National Assembly, 4 or 5 National Assembly members,
that's right.
but gradually sort of became
Increase.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
Subsequent elections, 0 in the National
Yeah,
Assembly. So we could see the trajectory
Yeah.
and the plummet,
Yeah.
as it were,
Absolutely.
given the
Absolutely.
context. So there
Yeah.
was nothing else really to sustain it.
Yeah, quite.
It came
Right.
here for a purpose,
Yes.
to get rid of jamming. Once that was done and Barrow established himself, he became irrelevant.
True. True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In 2016, people just wanted to Osa Jammeh out, and there was no option. Anybody that you bring would have at least, secured a lot of votes, even more than. Now, let's take a look at the new Senegal election. That's the past election, the parliamentary elections. And Njai is new speaker of Senegal's parliament. He's 41. I saw the newspaper yesterday. Someone said 41, 44, and 50. You know, these are the people running Senegal at the moment.
Yeah,
Which in Africa, that's considered young, by the way.
absolutely.
In the West.
They are youth in Africa.
In the West, there are MPs who are in their 20s.
We call them youth.
You know, yeah. So yeah, it's relatively in Senegal, it's a kind of young man's parliament, or it's becoming that, which is very unlike many parts of Africa. But certainly the president is young, currently the youngest. And of course, across Africa, we still have lots of old men who've been in power for many, many years. Museveni, Sassou Nguesso in Congo, Paul Biya in Cameroon, even though he's not been seen in public for 3 months, so we don't even know if he's alive. But, still talking nonsense that he's going to stand in the next election. Well, show yourself, if you're alive.
That's it. But you
remarkable.
You see in Senegal, this is really, it's a brilliant example of when you allow democracy to flourish, what kind of people you're going to have. We're seeing all these shifts politically within a democratic landscape, the last one being the most radical. There's a party that came with a radical agenda, you won. And then with the parliamentary, you sweep the parliament. It's as if people have really decided to really consign the old order. That's it, to history. And then usher in a new order. This is all happening democratically. Never been through any dictatorship and a military
and it's
regimes.
one of the ones I always point
So
to.
the attitudes, people's attitudes, their maturity, they're maturing.
I think actually, to be very honest, let's be very honest. People with that active energy, the younger generation, can be able to run a country. Running a country is it's not an easy thing. You need people with experience to guide the younger generation. I watched Tinubu, Tinubu, Nigeria's president. He visited France not long ago. When I looked at his picture, his video, I was like, wow, is this the man running Nigeria? With the whole of Nigeria? This is the guy running Nigeria. Honestly, we should be very serious. So
what do you mean?
Because
what were you saying?
I'm talking about his age.
No, the thing is, age doesn't matter. Do you have good ideas?
Absolutely.
Do you have a vision?
That's
what matters.
You have the energy.
Yeah, that's why at some point I said they should be there to guide the younger generation.
No, be careful here. Because should you go to Senegal now, most of their institutions, you go and see the bureaucracy, look at their age.
We have
average
we
age
have
would be.
I don't want the director to come and strangle me. He's already
the director
agitated.
should tell us to be quiet.
Yeah, so we have Essa Sow, Deputy General Secretary, Gambia Teachers Union. He was on this program yesterday, and we talked about the strike. And, it's like there is a resolution now. Let's talk to Essa and hear from him. Essa, good morning.
Good morning, and how are you all doing?
Very good. Have you taken your milk this morning? Fullers and milk. Ayari Kotan.
Not yet for that matter.
Okay, all right. It's good to have you again on the program. What is the latest?
The latest is that government has already fulfilled its obligation regarding the conditions we laid before them in respect of the industrial action.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yesterday, by 4:30, we were able to confirm that the the remaining 1.4 million was remitted to fiscal accounts.
Interestingly, so now what is the GTU doing? I mean, to communicate to its people so that they can go back? Because I'm still on my way to work. I've seen the streets empty. I can see there is no school activities.
No. Just be mindful that this is a special cohort of teachers that we're talking about. These are the grant-aided schools and the mission schools. There's a special cohort. That's not necessarily mainstream. So, not saying the too much traffic may not be a good determinant as to whether schools are resumed or not. So, beginning with your question, we have platforms across. The basic unit of the GTU is the school. So in every school we have a school representative. All schools have platforms. All clusters have platforms. All regions and national and our respective constituents. So as we speak right now, communication has reached all those affected.
Mr. So, we've just seen a headline flash up on the screen, and it says strike called off after government disburses pay. But I think we need to make a kind of distinction here, don't we, for the public? Because as you rightly said, this is not a dispute about pay. It's about the grant, isn't it? It's a specific grant, school improvement grant. Are we clear on that?
Yeah, I think I need to clarify this. It is pay. In our own language, in the education sector, subvention is exclusively meant for only salaries. So a layman's understanding of subvention is not functionally what happens at the level of the ministry.
Right.
So all senior secondary school board schools, their subventions are exclusively meant for their salaries and allowances. So what other sectors call PE, personal emolument, is exactly what subventions are meant for.
True.
So in the case of the grant, school improvement grant, apart from its core reason, our ancillary staff, like caretakers and watchmen, some of them, their salaries are paid from this grant. Yes, it is a grant, but it has to do with somebody's pay and wage.
Right. Okay. So now you've achieved this settlement. Were there ongoing talks to say, let's avoid a recurrence of this, or is this it? And are we going to kind of reach this situation again? Did you try and put in place some kind of mechanism to make sure that there's not a recurrence of this sort of incident?
Yes, absolutely. That's a high-stake engagement tomorrow, facilitated by the Office of the Vice President. And then at that meeting, we should be able to, we're going to finalize, come up with resolutions to avert the recurrence of this once and for all.
Thank you. I think,
all right.
I think Mr. Mboj wanted to come in.
Mr. So, just a quick one here. I seem to remember, was it last year or year before, you were due certain payments? Was it about salary? I'm not really sure. But there was a threat of going on strike, and then it was resolved. Am I correct?
Yes, that has to do with about $73 million for the school improvement grant.
Absolutely. Okay, fine.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
Just so this is the question. Why? It seems to me that is there a pattern emerging here where you have to threaten strike before there is a movement? I know that for different reasons, yet similar methods. There's a threat of strike before there is movement. Then it appears that there is no mechanism for these things to be resolved, in a way that you wouldn't have to threaten strike.
In a sustainable way, yeah, go ahead.
If I may comment, that is exactly and essentially why we are meeting tomorrow, because these are some of the reviews that we have made, both on the side of the union and government, and then there is just need for us to meet tomorrow.
All right. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Soul, for talking to us on QTV this morning.
So the strike averted, and everybody is resuming.
Everybody is happy.
As
Thank
of
you.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you
All
for
right.
joining us.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's it for you, Mr. Mboj, as well. You know, now we'll allow you to go take your coffee.
Thank you
know,
very
relax
much,
and
sir.
work on your African news.
You've been dismissed by the headmaster.
Yes, so Mr. Adedrame, at this point, Mr. Mamadou Mboj, thank you very much for reviewing the stories with us. And we hope to engage you in the future. Yeah, so viewers will take a short break. After the break, we'll talk to the president-elect of the Gambia Olympics Committee. So we'll be right back.
Q Money and Orange Money has just made money transfer easier. Now you can send money from Gambia to Senegal directly from your Q Money wallet. So what are you waiting for? Get your Q Money account now and start sending money to your friends and families through Orange Money in Senegal now. For more information, call our customer care on 133. Q Money, Sunu Kalpe. Terms and conditions apply.
Q-Money e Orange Money joni weɓini nuldugol mbuɗi mi yetoma joni ida wawi nuldude mbuɗi iwra ko Gambia ɗo yaha Senegal e Q-Money wallet ma on eyyi ko honno wonɗa e fadde mi yetoma udduto Q-Money account ma on joni fuɗɗoɗa nuldude mbuɗi e teriɓe ma rewa ɗon ka Orange Money nder Senegal fi heɓugol hen ko laaɓi ida wawi noddude Q-Money customer care e 133 Q-Money suñu kalpe ɗum no yaadi e sartaji. Q-Money anin Orange Money ye bulodi nyola pour ka kodi kio sone yandi ka bonan Gambia banko kan kata Senegal banko kan anin Q-Money wallet ika mune batu imuna fan Q-Money account wala sign pour kadati ka kodoki iterimal anila dimbayal kana anin Orange Money Senegal ni lafta ku Senegal sotola je Q-Money customer care commandi 133 Q-Money sunyu kalpe nying sartolle bala. Q-Money ak Orange Money ñoo lëkkaloo pour yombalal leen yónnee xaalis bàyyi ko Gambia dem ba Sénégal ak Q-Money wallet looy toog di xaar dawal léegi nga ubbi Q-Money account pour nga mun a door di yónnee xaalis sa xariteeg sa mbokka yi jaarale ko Orange Money Sénégal léegi pour am si lu leer mun nga call Q-Money customer care si 133 Q-Money suñu kalpe lii dafa ànd ak sarta yuñ tëral.
We are back. You are watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Abalde. Now let's move to the third segment of this program, and we have in the studio the president-elect of the Gambia Olympic Committee, Baiduru Jallow. And Mr. Jallow, you are welcome on this program. And first, congratulations on your election.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balde. Thank you very much, Mr. Drame, for having me this morning.
Thank you for coming.
Well, it's good to have you here.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about the Olympic Committee, we have a lot of things to discuss. But first, let's talk about what is your vision for the future of the Gambia Olympic Committee?
Thank you very much, Mr. Drame and Mr. Balde. Really, I'm honored to be here this morning. The Gambia National Olympic Committee is a very important institution when it comes to sports in this country. The membership constitute all the national sports associations that are registered, of course, with the National Sports Council and also registered with the National Olympic Committee, including the Olympic sports and also the non-Olympic sports. Really, so I think we have, coming into this election, we have come with a team, and through this team we've come up with a manifesto. And this manifesto, we have 10 pillars in our manifesto, in which we have really tried to itemize the various issues with respect to the National Olympic Committee and what we need at that level to move forward as a country. Really, so our focus will be that manifesto, and that is going to be the main cornerstone where we will really anchor our activities to make sure, because this is what we sold to the National Sports Association, and this is why they voted us into office, and really this is going to be our focus. And this manifesto is really good, as and it covers a lot of areas maybe probably not everything, but a lot of important areas with respect to the NOC. And central among them will be the athletes and their development, their welfare, and of course, in general, trying to make sure we have the environment for sports to flourish, both at the national and at the international level.
So we might not have time to go through all 10.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
if somebody's listening or watching, and they would probably think, so what was number 1 on the list of 10, and are they in order of importance? First being most important, 10th being 10th most important, and if so, what was number 1 on that?
Yeah,
list?
actually, maybe we did not put not necessarily in order of importance, because most of these things are very important. But in number 1, we have the governance, the issue of governance, trying to improve the governance structure. And governance at the National Olympic Committee, and not only we are in this pillar. We are not only looking at governance at the level of the NOC, but we are looking at governance at the NOC, but also helping the national associations who are members of the NOC to also put up some good governance structures. Yeah, so this is an important area, because really, fundamentally, you have to have a good governance structure to be able to put up programs that will succeed. Yeah, if you have a governance problem or a governance issue, this filters down to all the other things that you may want to do, and you may not succeed in carrying out your activities, because governance is failing, and it fails across the board. So governance is one of the main pillar. I think the second pillar is we are looking at revenue generation and supporting national associations. That's also a very important issue, because the National Olympic Committee has for many years depended only on the support they get from the Olympic Solidarity and the IOC. And normally they do also get support from government when there are games like the Olympic Games, the Commonwealth Games, and so on, and the All Africa Games. But really, we want to try to go beyond this. We cannot depend on this support only. This support coming from the IOC is earmarked maybe for the functioning of the secretariat, and mainly to support some athlete scholarships and here and there, and some training programs as well. So it's tailor-made. So if you depend on this, then there is a lot that you cannot do, especially at the national level. Yes.
You've mentioned 2 others, which, and in fact, it was a point I was going to raise. We hear about National Olympic Committee.
Yes.
Well, you've mentioned All Africa Games.
Yes.
You've mentioned Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
What is GNOC's relationship with those particular events?
Yeah, the GNOC is the body responsible to put up the teams to go and participate in these games. It is the responsibility of the NOC.
It's called Olympic Committee.
Yes.
Not just for the Olympic Games. That's the point I want to
it's not only for the Olympic Games, but also for the other games.
The other games.
All the other games are under the
GNOC.
About the All Africa Games, the Commonwealth Games, the Islamic
because
Solidarity
when you talk
Games.
about Olympics, the mental picture you tend to have is only
the Olympic Games. Yes.
So that needs to be clear.
Olympic Games are every 4 years.
Exactly.
Your appointment, what is your tenure as president, and how frequently are elections held?
It's 2024. We have just come from the elections. So my term in office will be 2024 to 2028. So normally it goes along with the Olympic cycle. So immediately at the end of every Olympic Games, you're supposed to go to an election to come in for a new quadrennial.
And of course, we just had the Paris.
Exactly. So let's talk about infrastructure. What plans do you have to upgrade sporting facilities in the Gambia?
Yeah, we have a big problem when it comes to infrastructure for sports. I am the president of the Gambia Volleyball Federation, and I know how we are struggling when it comes to infrastructure. We have very good beach volleyball team, and you see, because the sun and the beach is here. When it comes to indoor, you see how we are struggling. And one of our main thing we are struggling is because we don't even have the infrastructure to start with to prepare our teams to go. So it's a big problem, and I'm sure it's the same thing for basketball, for handball, for many other sports, for karate, for judo, and all these other sports. So yes, the NOC, it's not the responsibility of the NOC directly to to build infrastructure in the country, sporting infrastructure. But I think as a National Olympic Committee, what we have in our manifesto is that we are going to be very proactive in this area. We are going to reach out to government through the Ministry of Youth and Sports. We are going to work with them very, very closely to make sure we have proper, planning with respect to some of this infrastructure. For example, right now, not even a single indoor court is in this country. We can have an indoor court.
For volleyball?
Even for volleyball.
For volleyball,
for
right,
volleyball. Even for volleyball.
Right.
What we have is outdoor.
Yeah, sure.
It's outdoor. It's in the
Because
open air.
You mentioned working with government, and one of my questions was going to be, and what about the private sector? Would it not be a case where you could ask the private sector to build a court, and they can even brand it?
Yes.
Be it a tennis court, basketball court, a volleyball court, and so on. And this could be part of their, because sports can be, something that could actually lift a nation, as we've seen. So are there plans to? Yes, you said you try and get some funding from government, but what about from the private sector and even abroad?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of things like reaching out to other countries, America, the European Union, send coaches
Yes.
to come and coach. Are those some of the plans?
Yeah, definitely. Those are also in our plans. With respect to, in fact, the pillar where we talked about, we have talked about the partnerships. But even in infrastructure, like you said, we are not only going to stop at government. We will engage government as the main player when it comes to national infrastructure at the national level. But we will engage the private sector. And we also have very good plans to engage national Olympic committees of other countries, and soliciting support for infrastructure support, but of course also soliciting support where we have athletes that really the infrastructure here cannot support for their preparation. We work with other national Olympic committees. In addition to the support that we are getting from Olympic Solidarity, if we have an additional support from other national Olympic committees for preparation of our teams, then it becomes broad, it becomes wide, then we can support a larger number than just a small number of 1 or 2 sports, and all the other sports are here. So this is something we are looking at, and really we are going to look at working with the diplomatic missions in various countries to bring this into fruition. And of course you have to go through government also to do this. So really we are looking at working closely with government proactively to make sure this happens, to try to get infrastructure, at least step by step, but at least for these 4 years, we will try to start to work on the infrastructure, and also not only focusing here, but try to even see what kind of, how to improve the infrastructure in the regions. Because we are even planning to go out and look at the regions, look at what is there now, and what can we do even initially to start improving. Is lighting a problem? Can we put up a light there that they can play even during the night? Some of these things are small things, but they can make a big difference. So we want to start really working on some of these small things, and then continue to engage government and engage many other partners, both national and international, to get this to happen.
Sometimes, a lot of the time, we obsess over things like the physical infrastructure.
Exactly.
So what about things like the various disciplines, getting coaching and building up the capacity of our coaches so that we have coaches who are of international standards in all the sporting disciplines that we're interested in? What's happening in that regard?
Yeah, in that regard, really, the plan is to engage the national federations and accompany them. I think what we are seeing is that national federations should be almost forced. We use encourage, but we are even saying should be forced to organize national championships. I think that would be a very good starting point. If you have an annual national championships, that means you will have clubs, and this club will have coaches, and then you have a competition, and through that competition you can come up with a national team and a national team coach. And through this structure we can support the coaches. For example, we can make sure some of these coaches, through Olympic Solidarity, they can go and get training into other, center of excellence around the world, and also our engagement with other NOCs. This is also some of the areas that we are going to tap in very, very well. Preparation of our athletes, but even having a coach being attached to one of these nations that are doing very, very well, to work with their national teams or with their various sporting infrastructures for a period of time, and then come back and help this country. So these are all things that we are looking at really.
Yes. So what about gender equality when it comes to sports? How will the committee try to encourage, gender equality, when it comes to the sporting disciplines?
Well, we have been criticized during the campaign that if you look at our team, especially in the elected members, we have only one female. And we have a pillar in our manifesto that is talking about women in sports, women in sports. So really, it's something we are going to push. The IOC have this 30% gender quota that they are encouraging all national Olympic committees to have at the level of the NOC, but also in the various structures. So we are going to leverage and try to, because even if you look at in the Gambia, women are doing extremely well in sports. Probably our biggest athlete right now, in Gina Bass is a woman. So I think that alone shows that the women in this country have the potential when it comes to sports. So we have to encourage women in sports very, very well.
Yes.
We have to make sure we support the women teams to go out, to participate, to play. But we have to also encourage national associations to make sure they have women in their leadership and in the various structures. Because through this, then, women would really see that they can be in various levels of sports. We can have women who are doctors, we can have women who are coaches, women who are referees, and so on. So we are going to encourage this.
Yeah. So, Mr. Jallow, what have you seen as your biggest challenge as an incoming president? And you've been sitting from outside and looking at it, and you think, okay, this is a challenge. And when I come in as the president, I would be able to address this.
Yeah, right now, I think one thing also is a challenge is uniting all the national federations, bringing them together to have a common direction and a common understanding. I think this is maybe one of my first challenges that I would try to face and tackle, because over the years it has been rocky with respect to the NOC. We have had AGMs that we've quarreled for like 3 to 4 hours fighting against each other. But I think that is going to be one thing that I would try to bring on board, to make sure we have a very good communication with our national associations, and we are very much clear about our direction. And we try to encourage all these national federations to buy into that direction so that we all move together. I think that's a big challenge. Of course, the other challenge obviously is the issue of resources and infrastructure. And that is also a very big challenge. How do we go around this? Because without these resources, you cannot move the sports. So how do you really get resources? What kind of strategies are you going to put in place to get resources? Like Mr. Drame was alluding to, going to government, private sector, and all other possible partnerships that you need to do to bring resources, so that through those resources you can really have activities, programs, and you can manage these resources very well and succeed.
Sure. So let me use a sporting analogy. I've pressed the stopwatch on your term.
Yes.
You've got 4 years.
Yes.
At the end of those 4 years, what would you like to look back on and say, this is what I've achieved? What would success over that 4-year period look like to you? What would you like to have achieved in that period?
Yeah, what I am looking at the end of the 4 years, I would like to see at least an indoor hall facility in this country. That is a very standard, which is at the international level, where volleyball, basketball, handball, most of these national federations can use, but they can even use it to host international competition in this country. That is one thing. I'm also looking at the grassroots level, especially at the level of schools. How do we generate interest in sports at the level of schools, so that we have sports being practiced at that level and very in a manner in which it is very active. It is not only athletics and football.
I was going to say, because at the moment all I see is athletics
and football. But how do we go beyond that? How do we have judo, karate, taekwondo? How do we have tennis, basketball. How do we have these sporting activities being practiced very, very well at the level of schools, especially at the level of primary and secondary school sports? And if we have this, at the end of the 4 years, and there is this interest in sports at that level, then I can guarantee you that we will start to have very good athletes coming out of these programs and going to.
Thank you very much, Baiduru Jallo, the President-elect of the Gambia Olympic Committee, for talking to us on QTV this morning. The election passed, and your term started, and the committee. Olympic Committee is one of the most important sporting institutions in this country, and we will be watching. We will be holding you accountable.
I just wanted to give him a word of advice. I mean, the NBA basketball, they're trying to grow basketball around the world. I think it might be worth writing to them and telling them about the lack of facilities here and see whether they will fund something here in the Gambia. Because they're trying to compete with football, as in soccer. They're a million miles behind it. There's no way they will ever catch up with that. But that's not going to stop them.
But it's a big franchise too.
It's a huge franchise, and I think it's worth writing to them and say, look, we're lacking facilities here. Why not fund a court or 2 or 3? And this is a multi-billion dollar industry, the NBA. So, I think it's worth.
So thank you, Mr. Jallo. We hope to engage you in the future as well.
Thank you very much.
And we wish you all the best of luck.
And we'll be keeping a keen eye on.
And we also ask for your support.
Absolutely.
We need everybody's support.
Why not?
Why
not?
We need everybody's support.
Absolutely. Why not? Why not? Yeah. So thank you. Viewers will take a short break. After the break, the program continues. We'll be right back.
Toma. First time cross, really threatening, and it's dropped for Minte, rifled in! Out.
Did you know you can buy cash power using QMoney wallet absolutely free up to $30,000? Use our app or dial 323# and select Q Power. Choose Register Meter. Enter your meter number. Dial *323# and follow these simple steps. Number 1, select option 3 for Q Power. Number 2, choose option 1 to buy any amount of Q Power. Enjoy free QCell airtime every time you cash in to purchase Q Power. For any inquiries, call 133. Q Money, Sunyu Kalbe.
Mitoma. First time cross, really threatening, and it's dropped for Minte, rifled in! Out.
Hidandi da wawi sodude cash power e QMoney wallet maong te ayobata hai hunde ida wawi sode ko yehi ha guluji $30 ko watano baby wadu dial *323# joka sartaji ding suboda option 3 fi Q Power ontumasi suboda register meter number sa gaini natina number meter maong wadu dial *323# joka sartaji ding suboda option 3 fi Q Power ontumasi suboda ko jelu falda sodude awawa hebude ko bura andrere free QCell airtime watu kala soruda Q Power fi hebugol hen ko laabi de waynodude 133 Q Money suñu kalpe.
Mitoma. First time cross, really threatening, and it's dropped for Minte, rifled in! Out.
Ko
Bori yalo neko anila Q Money Wallet isa Q Power Sanno katafo wulitan saba andung ita fenjola. Ibe minkela ibanna Apple download la wala yesta 323 has dial B yebula sartol noma. Follow ye register mita tombo. Fulanjao yela mita nomba dundi. Yesta 323 has dial B yebula sartol noma. Follow iba noma 3 la detela puri yekiu power soto no. Fulanjao iba nomba 1 la detela katombondir ke hapola ilafta min sanna. Amanda Wola, wati ye kodo dundi purka kiu pawasa, kiu sel beso la free bonus lale. Ni lafta kuma koyo moyele nyinto, kumandiro ke 133. Kiu!
Thank you very much. You're watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Osuri Balde. Now let's move to the last segment of this program, and we have the NACOF team in the studios already. As you know, they are getting ready for the biggest youth convergence in the Gambia, and youths will be gathering from different parts, of the sub-region. And of course, it's important for us to engage them and tell them how far have we gone with the preparation. And we have Wura in the studios. Wura, how are you?
I'm fine. Good morning to all viewers.
It's good to have you here again, my brother.
Thank you, yeah.
Yes, and we have a young lady. Please, what's your name?
Aissatou.
Seka. Seka. Yeah, so let's start with the preparation. How far have we gone?
Thank you very much, Ibrahima, for having us here to update the general public. We have gone very far in terms of preparing for this very important youth gathering. We have been crisscrossing the municipality and beyond to canvass for funding.
Okay.
And as a result, a lot of things has been put in place, and I can assure the general public that we will see one of the best and well-organized NACOF under the chairperson of Madam Aissatou M. Seka and the Lord Mayor as well. So we've been trying to focus more on revenue, funding for the event, and for now a lot has been raised, and we're still not yet up to the target we wanted. But we're very optimistic that a lot of businesses will come forward before the time itself.
How short are you of your target, or how close?
Well, I can say we are 75% now close to our target.
Okay.
And we still have like less than 2 weeks to go, but we are very optimistic that we can cover that gap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Aissatou.
Madam Aissatou Seka. So before we go too deeply, can we just tell the viewers the dates of the convergence?
Thank you very much. The date of NACOFs is from 15th to 23rd of December 2024.
Oh, it's already here.
Yes.
It's around the corner, as Wura said.
We have less than 2 weeks to go.
Yeah, sure.
So just as Wura said, currently we're busy with fundraising as well as being able to ensure that we have a very good accommodation for the participants.
Okay.
We have seen, I think KM is very lucky because this is the first time we're hosting. So we have our sister regions that have hosted, and we got inspiration from them. We got advices from them, and we're trying to ensure that we implement a NACOF that I used to tell people when we finish our NACOF, I think regions will be even scared to bid for NACOF.
Yeah. What a preparation.
And sort of how many are you expecting in terms of
we're expecting about 2,000 young people at national level, and we're also expecting international delegates.
International level. Okay, so I mean, the ground as to the preparation. I mean, the finance is one aspect, but the ground also it's another aspect. How prepared is the ground?
Yeah, there is no one venue for the NACOF activities, and all these grounds has been prepared, has been inspected. We've gone around, the LOC has gone around to inspect these grounds to see whether the facilities are up to standard, are prepared to host these games, and I think Aissatou can delve more into that.
So for this year's NACOF, we have seen in the previous NACOF that usually participants usually be in different schools. But this year with KM, we intend to bring all of them at the same school so that they will be able to network the ambience of NACOF and all of that. But with the school, we will be hosting NACOF in Charles Yao Memorial Academy. So everyone know that Charles Yao belongs to KMC. So Charles Yao is home. And for the sporting activities, we'll be having football, volleyball and basket at Serekunda East. And we'll be having athletic and wrestling and some part of the basketball as well in Serekunda Westfield. So the opening ceremony, we're thinking of having it either at Jola Kunda or at the Buva Zone. And all these things have been done in consultation with the National Organizing Committee of this.
So what are we looking forward to at some point? It's not just coming to converge, then enjoy ourselves, look at different sporting disciplines and go home. So what is going to be the home take for?
Is there a theme?
Yes, there are 8 thematic areas that we have in this year's NACOF, and in fact there are pre-NACOF activities also that will prepare participants towards these teams. And at the end of the day, when NACOF kicks off proper, these are areas that also will be looked at. That's where policy is being derived from. These are thematic areas that young people will discuss and come up with issues that affect them. And if you look at most of the thematic areas like migration, drugs related, the creative industry, youth and employment, all these are issues that affect young people. So once they discuss it, they know what they want. Policy options would be generated that will be forwarded to the National Youth Council for onwards delivery to the Ministry for Cabinet to take a position paper on that. And that will form the youth policy in this country. I think ISA2 can delve more on the thematic areas that really we want, would be featured in this NACOF, and we expect that they will address the issues affecting young people in this country.
So with this year's NACOF, the theme is enhancing youth participation in the attainment of the recovery focus of the National Development Plan 2023 to 2027. So by so doing, we have 8 thematic areas that we'll be working on with the conference. We usually tell people that NACOF is National Youth Conference and Festival. So the festival part of it is the cultural activities, the sporting and all of that. But we have the most important part, which is the conference. And in the conference this year, we'll be having gender and development. We'll be working on climate change. We all understand that climate change is really affecting us. We'll be doing youth employment, we'll be doing migration, drugs. We'll also be doing peace and security and
creative industry.
And by the way, if anybody's panicking when they said we'll be doing drugs, they don't mean they'll be doing drugs. They'll be doing stuff about drugs.
They'll be there sensitized.
There will be a thematic area
I think that would it's a better time to discuss that now as we are struggling.
Of course. I mean, because there are a lot of things that impact and affect youths. But looking back on previous NACOFs, what are some of the takeaways that you can look back and say this has been successful? Because there are certain recurring themes, aren't there? There are things that come up every time, migration and so on. I mean, what has come out of them that has kind of contributed in some way to addressing or dealing or tackling some of the major concerns?
So that we have a lot of them in the sporting fraternity. We have seen a lot of young people that are playing for the national team. Some of them are athletics and all of that. They all emerged from NACOF. Their talents came out through their participation in NACOF. We've seen beauty pageants as well. We have seen Gambians now participating in international beauty pageants. Most of them pass through the NACOF. And when it comes to the policies and some of the activities or programs that have emerged from NACOF. The Techife program was something that was discussed at NACOF. It's something that the young people wanted, and we were able to get that. And that was to address the issues of illegal migration in the Gambia. We have also seen the National Action Plan on Youth, Peace and Security. Gambia have never got one. We just validated the first National Action Plan on youth, peace and security in the Gambia. And this is a milestone. I think Gambia have been the 3rd or 4th country in the entire Africa to get the National Action Plan on youth, peace and security. We've also seen a lot of other things in the Gambia that are happening, and like we used to tell people that struggle continue. As we are coming, we are also lobbying for more things. We are lobbying to see more youth participation in politics. And I think when it comes to youth in leadership, this is something that we are really looking forward to seeing or attaining in this year's NACOP. We want to see more young people in national tables. We want to be in cabinet. We want to see young people at National Assembly, not only being appointed, but we want to be elected. We want to have a level playing ground for young people to be able to move onward and be able to take leadership
So what's
positions.
NACOP's definition of youth? Is it the legal one, or do you have your own bandwidth from this
Who
age
is a
to that
youth?
age?
Because at some
It's
point,
the national
So
definition.
NACOP is the national definition, is
Right.
someone between the age of 13 to 35.
35.
So all
Sorry
the
about
participants that
oh,
will
I'm
be
off the youth.
yes.
I'm off the youth.
So
now.
all the participants across all sectors
They're
will
within
be
that.
between the age of 13 to
But my
35.
VDC chairman is a youth, and he is 45. When we call the youth, he will come and participate.
He's an honorary youth then.
All right. So, which countries are participating? I mean,
Because we got some international
Yes,
attendees.
collaboration.
as
I think the
well, haven't we?
chairperson invited some, and he should be to tell us who's
So
he invited.
National Youth Council have sister organizations.
Okay.
We are also part of some consortiums, some international organizations that will be inviting to participate in this year's NACOP. One like the African Youth Commission is a network that is bringing all young people that run the affairs of young people within Africa. We have the Pan-African Youth Union, and we have a lot of other sister organizations within the region that will be taking part in this year's NACOP.
I just wanted to say, the issue of young people is cross-cutting, and NACOF, it's a national issue, started by the First Republic until today.
okay.
So I want the general public or institutional or people to see it at that light and understand that it is meant to allow young people to decide for themselves. That is why the chairperson was talking about the important part of the conference of the NACOF.
Yes.
That's where issues that affect them are being addressed. But you cannot bring young people together and they don't engage in sporting activities. That is why the sporting activity, basketball, volleyball, and all these things are incorporated to ensure that you keep them alive. What I mean, you keep them happy, you keep them networking, you keep them. You'll be able to keep them in one place.
Sure.
But the focus is let's institutions understand and support that when we want to address issues affecting young people, one way of doing that is supporting NACOF.
Yes.
And NACOF, that's where issues that affect young people would come out lightly by themselves to say, this is what I want, like she said, the TechIFI program and other aligned programs that were derived from the outcome of NACOF. And this is also, we expect at the end of NACOF, resolutions will be drawn, and those resolutions, if implemented, will transform a lot.
And will you be also inviting some not very young people to come along and listen so that they know what young people's concerns are? And they need to be addressed rather than them waiting to receive a report. To hear firsthand.
Yes, I think the machinery of government would be there, because last time we had NACOF, all the important people in government were there to grace the opening, and there would be speeches that are made. At the end of the day also, every region is represented, and the governor of the region will always come and visit his own people, his or her own people.
Okay.
And that will tell you that the government is in picture, because the representatives of government in every region would be there to know what is affecting the young people.
So what is the coordination? I mean, different regions should be there. I mean, from inception, do we have coordinators from different regions? I mean, that you've been communicating with to coordinate at that end.
So what usually happens is we have the National Organizing Committee, which is led by the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sport.
Okay.
And at regional levels, you have the mayors and the governors that usually be the head or the chairperson of the local organizing committee. So at KMC, we have the mayor who is the chairperson of the local organizing committee. In other, both KM and Banjo. So in other regions, you have the governor as the chairperson of the local organizing committee. And usually all organizing committee work on their own programs and activities that they want to have to prepare the participants that will be coming, because we'll be having the cultural festivals where you will have the drama, the cultural display, the Mason Master, academics, debate, quiz, and all of that.
Okay.
We also have the sporting. This time we're only having 5 sporting activities. That's the football, volleyball, basketball, wrestling, draft, and athletics. So these are the activities that will be happening in the sport. Yes.
You call that a sport?
It is. So it's part of the sport, actually.
Right.
We push it in the sporting category.
It
Okay.
makes you think,
Yes.
Miss Ari. It makes you think.
It's like when I see
It's
them
the activity of the
when they're
brain.
telling
It
me
makes
that
you
they're
think.
going to put chess in the Olympics. I'm like, behave.
So draft is considered on the
a
sport this
sure.
time. Actually, that's how it used to be.
Yeah, yeah.
So these are activities that will be happening, and each region usually go on their own to prepare their participants.
Okay.
Where we have the audition, you do the match test to be able to pick the participants per region and all of that.
Right, and
So,
there's a sort of national coordinating committee.
we
is
have
there?
a national organizing committee.
Okay.
That,
The NOC.
that's the NOC
Okay.
that coordinate the entire activity of the NECA.
Right.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Aishitu and Wura, for coming on the program.
Yeah.
And it's in 2 weeks. So
Less
in
than
2
2
weeks.
weeks. In
Less
12
than
days.
2
In
weeks.
12
Less
days.
than 2 weeks.
Less than
I am
2
pretty
weeks.
sure we will be there to cover the makeup.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
why not? I mean, we have Jenaba Sonko here, and Julden Jai. They
Julden
should
Jai.
be able to go and cover because they are youth. I mean,
And
for us, we are
there
out
will
of
be
the
some fruitful content for youth dialogue, of
Yes.
course, which of course is a
absolutely,
program
absolutely,
here on QTV.
absolutely. Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate giving us the time at least to know what exactly the preparation is. We hope to engage you in the future too.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for inviting us.
Mr.
Thank you,
Adre,
Edi.
this is all we have.
Well, they've got me very excited, looking forward to it, even though I'm no longer a youth. In fact, it's so long ago, I've forgotten what it was like being a youth.
Being a youth,
but thank you, it's been a pleasure. And to both of you, thank you for coming.
Yes, all right. So viewers, this is all we have. We'll be back here tomorrow, inshallah. Until then, enjoy the rest of our programs. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.